Bonjour et bienvenue à notre podcast de Learn French with Alexa. Now, this is podcast number 7, so you know the drill. I'm going to read a short passage in French based on a fun fact about me, Alexa Polidoro. How exciting. Anyway, this text is of A1/A2 level, which means that it's fairly easy/intermediate level. I'm going to focus on one grammar point, which is based from lesson 13 of my complete French course. As you know, that Learn French with Alexa is known not only for the YouTube channel, but also for the complete French course that is available at learnfrenchwithalexa.com. Anyways, enough of my publicity. Just, I'm trying to sell the course as well as teaching you because we are a small team here at Learn French with Alexa. Anyway, we are going to look at the word plus, P-L-U-S, plus, and plus, which is spelled exactly the same way. I'm going to read you a short passage, and this passage is titled Mon endroit préféré. Do you know what an endroit is? An endroit. I'll emphasize on the R sound, the R sound. Endroit. Endroit préféré. There's a lot of R. Now, endroit is a place, okay? So what is my favorite place? Now, this will be the question I will be asking you in a minute. I'm going to read the passage first, and you can maybe answer what is the favorite place, but why is it my favorite place? So it's another fun fact about me. Anyways, here we go. Listen to the text carefully. Écoutez attentivement. L'endroit que je préfère le plus au monde, c'est la ville de Lyme Regis, qui est située sur la plus grande côte jurassique au sud-ouest de l'Angleterre. J'y passe beaucoup de temps car je trouve ce lieu magnifique. En tout cas, c'est plus calme que Londres. En plus, comme vous le savez, la chasse aux fossiles est une de mes activités préférées. Et on peut en trouver plein sur les plages si on sait où chercher. Okay, so this is the text. Okay, you've had one reading. How was that for you? Did you understand the text fully? Did you know what it's about? And can you answer this question? Quel est l'endroit que j'aime le plus au monde? Now you will hear le plus, and this is one of the focus of this text, which we will translate fully at the end of this, the third reading. Now, what is the place que j'aime le plus au monde? That I love le plus, le plus. Here we've got the superlative le plus. The most in the world, le plus au monde. Now, that's the question. Quel est l'endroit que j'aime le plus au monde? So this is very specific to me. It might not, you might start thinking about your place that you love the most in the world, that makes you zen, which is mindful. What is that place? What is the place where you feel the safest? Now, you might be able to answer that, and it will be lovely if you could answer that in French, for that matter. Now, let's listen to the text again. Listen really carefully. Quel est l'endroit que j'aime le plus au monde? L'endroit que je préfère le plus au monde, c'est la ville de Lyme Regis, qui est située sur la plus grande côte jurassique au sud-ouest de l'Angleterre. J'y passe beaucoup de temps car je trouve ce lieu magnifique. En tout cas, c'est plus calme que Londres. En plus, comme vous le savez, la chasse aux fossiles est une de mes activités préférées et on peut en trouver plein sur les plages si on sait où chercher. Okay. Now we've listened to it a second time. What is the answer to quel est l'endroit que moi, Alexa, j'aime le plus au monde? what answer would you put? Well, if you heard the first sentence, l'endroit que je préfère le plus au monde, c'est la ville de Lyme Regis. So that would be the answer. L'endroit que je préfère le plus au monde, c'est la ville de Lyme Regis. It's the town of Lyme Regis. This is my favorite place of all time. That's where I love to go. Now, have a look at le plus. Le plus au monde means the most in the world, okay? So here we have what we call the superlative. So, we've answered this question. You could say, l'endroit qu'Alexa aime le plus au monde, c'est la ville de Lyme Regis. Now, in the first sentence, I say, qui est située sur la plus grande côte jurassique au sud-ouest de l'Angleterre. Now, qui est situé means which is placed or situated on the most or la plus grande, the biggest, la plus grande, the biggest côte jurassique coast in the south of England. So, I want you to listen to that again. The first part of the sentence says, je préfère le plus au monde, okay? I like the most in the world. However, we're using another superlative using la, but with an adjective, the biggest, okay? So here, la plus grande côte jurassique, we don't say la plus grande côte jurassique. And why is that? It's because we have grande, which follows plus. Okay? In that case, we do not pronounce s sound. Now, listen to that. L'endroit que je préfère le plus au monde. The place I prefer the most in the world. Monde is not an adjective here. So we are going to use le plus with a s sound. However, la plus grande côte jurassique au sud-ouest de l'Angleterre, we don't say la plus grande côte. Why is that? Because this superlative here has an adjective, grande. So that means the biggest, la plus grande côte jurassique. Okay? La plus grande côte jurassique. And you could equally say le plus petit, the smallest. Okay? But you don't say le plus petit. You say le plus petit, okay? Ou les plus petits, the smallest, as in referring to a masculine, a plural word, okay? So, we are establishing here that le plus and la plus grande are both superlative, but one has a s sound, okay? When it's not followed by anything. Okay, if it's not followed by an adjective. However, it has a plus sound when it is followed by an adjective. And we are going to see that again twice in this text, okay? So I could, before I read it again, I could ask you this question. Quel est l'endroit que vous aimez le plus au monde? So now it's not about me, it's about you. Quel est l'endroit? What is the place? Quel est le lieu? So we have a synonym here. Instead of endroit, you could say lieu. Quel est le lieu que vous aimez le plus au monde? So to answer this question, you could say, well, l'endroit ou le lieu que j'aime le plus au monde, c'est, could be anywhere. Anywhere that you feel the safest, that you love, that is the most magnificent for you, okay? That would be interesting for you to tell me what it is. I'm very curious. Now, we've got this, okay? Now let's listen to the text a third time. Listen very carefully. And this time, try to pick on the other plus or plus, okay? We've got 4 in all in this text, and this is the focus, just like we have in lesson 13 of the complete French course. As a matter of fact, let's listen to our sponsor. If you're enjoying learning French with me and would like to go even further, my certified complete French course brings everything together in one place. You'll have lessons, quizzes, and support guides to help you reach your goals, and it's all taught
by me. Use code ALEXAPOD for 15% off.
Okay, as you've noticed that I am sponsoring my own podcast, but hey, any means is necessary, right? Okay, so let's listen to the reading again and focus on the plus and plus. Here we go. L'endroit que je préfère le plus au monde, c'est la ville de Lyme Regis, qui est située sur la plus grande côte jurassique au sud-ouest de l'Angleterre. J'y passe beaucoup de temps car je trouve ce lieu magnifique. En tout cas, c'est plus calme que Londres. En plus, comme vous le savez, la chasse aux fossiles est une de mes activités préférées. Et on peut en trouver plein sur les plages si on sait où chercher. Okay, so we've seen le plus as a superlative, la plus grande again as a superlative with an adjective. And there is another one in the third sentence which says, en tout cas, c'est plus calme que Londres. Okay, so here we've got a comparatives. Okay, so what's the difference between comparatives and superlatives? Well, comparative is more than or less than. So you're comparing it to things. For example, I am smaller than Ben. It's a fact, okay? Je suis plus petite que Ben. I am smaller than. Okay, that's a comparative. So we've got this comparative in the third sentence in this text. En tout cas, c'est plus calme que Londres. So, in any case, in fact, it is quieter than London. So how did I do that? Plus calme que. I've put plus, as the more, calme as the adjective quiet, and que for than. Okay, so Lyme Regis est plus calme que Londres. And here's your comparative. When it comes to superlative, then it's what I've said earlier on. The most or the least, okay? La plus grande, the biggest, okay? So bear in mind that we don't have an ER, like bigger ER. We don't have that. So we will transform that into these two words, plus and then que, okay? So plus calme que. We don't say plus because there is an adjective afterwards, okay? And then the superlative would be the biggest. So how do we do the ST sound? We would say la plus grande, okay? La plus grande. Here you are not comparing it to anything. You're just saying it's the biggest, it's the most beautiful, okay? La plus belle, the most beautiful, yeah? So that's the difference between the two. But every time you need in French, in English it's easy, you give an ER at the end of an adjective, bigger, or ST, biggest, EST, for example. And then that gives me straight away, well, are we talking about a comparative or superlative? I know, okay? In French, it's slightly more complicated. You've got to use plus, okay, or plus, and you've got to use the article le, la, les, if it's a superlative. And then for a comparative, you've got to use the plus, and then adjective, and the que, or the moins, and then adjective, and a que. I cover all of that in lesson 13 in my complete French rules. Anyway, let's have a look at the text one last time. It will become so much clearer now, I think. Tell me in the comments if it's not. I don't know. Here we go. L'endroit que je préfère le plus au monde. So, the place that I prefer the most in the world. C'est la ville de Lyme Regis. It is the town of Lyme Regis. Qui est située? Which is situated sur la plus grande côte jurassique. On the biggest coast or Jurassic coast au sud-ouest de l'Angleterre. In the southeast of England. J'y passe beaucoup de temps. Okay, I spend a lot of time there. And the there here is in I, as in the pronoun I. I cover lots of lessons on I versus en. Again, check my course out for that. Now, j'y passe beaucoup de temps, car means because. Je trouve ce lieu magnifique. I think this place is magnificent. Okay? C'est la plus belle, c'est le plus bel endroit de tous les temps. To me, anyway. Of course, it wouldn't be to you. You've got something. I'm very curious about what is your place in the world that you value as the most mindful place and the safest place that you have. What is it and why? En tout cas, c'est plus calme que Londres. It is quieter than London, for sure. Okay. Well, there's 9 million inhabitants in difference, I think, between the two. Now, en plus, moreover. Now, here's another plus. When you're saying en plus, here you've got to have the ps sound, en plus, okay, because there is no word afterwards. So, moreover, en plus, comme vous le savez, as you know, because we saw that in podcast number 1, I think, la chasse aux fossiles est une de mes activités préférées. Okay, la chasse aux fossiles, fossil hunting, is one of my preferred activities. La chasse aux fossiles est une, n'importe quoi. Sorry about the liaison. La chasse aux fossiles est une de mes activités préférées. Et on peut en trouver plein sur les plages si on sait où chercher. And we can find them en. Again, here's a pronoun, okay, replacing something, just like replacing there, okay. Now, en for things, it's replacing here fossils. So, on peut trouver des fossiles, instead of repeating fossils, we say, on peut en trouver. We can find some of them. Plein sur les plages, a lot of them on the beach, si on sait où chercher. If we know where to look for them, okay, where to look. Now, if we know where to look, but if we know what to look for as well, si on sait quoi chercher, I would add to this as well. When you fossil hunt, your eyes are set into a certain shape and color of fossils. And sometimes you have specialists. They would find just shark's teeth, and they will find lots of them. And other fossil hunters will not find them, though they're very good at fossil huntings. They will not find them because their eye and mind is not set to finding this particular type of fossils. And I see it with me, I'm interested in the big thing, the big stuff. So my brain omits the little things. I want big. I want like dinosaur big. Anyway, I've never found a dinosaur, FYI. So just waiting for that moment. Might never happen, 55 years of fossil hunting and have not found one big bone in my life. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this podcast and please leave a comment if you are on YouTube. And again, if you want to share l'endroit que vous aimez le plus au monde, drop me a line. I'd love to have a discussion about that with you. Because we all have different places, it could be a cafe somewhere in wherever, Paris or whatever, but why is it the place you love the most? This is the place you love the most in the world. I want to know. That's it for me. See you next time. Au revoir, à bientôt. Bisous, bisous.